All right. Well, let me dig into it. Please mount that like button for me. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that I have been working on when I haven't been streaming, and then we're going to do a project together. So, of course, you guys know that I do have this here book out, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. It is available in hardcover. It is available in Kindle version, but the one I'm really excited about is the audio version available on Audible. I read the whole thing myself, and I think it turned out pretty good. And so, if you have not yet gotten a copy of my book, this book is the basis from which all of my other work is going to be done. If you want to get involved with the stuff I'm doing, and I would invite everyone watching today, if you're going to be a reasonable human being and not an idiot, I would welcome anyone to get involved with the work I'm doing, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. But all of the work is going to come from this book. I have laid out in this book my strategy and my philosophy for fighting back against the woke insanity. I explain what it is in plain English so that everyone can understand it. I have given you actionable strategies and tasks. I have laid out my rules for fighting back against woke insanity. So if you have not yet picked up a copy of this book in whatever format works best for you, I strongly recommend that you do, because this is going to provide the foundational knowledge that we are going to use to actually fight back and combat this stuff. Now, I've been doing a lot of stuff. One of the things I did is I put on this here event, Affirming Reality, Overcoming the Effects of the Gender Cult. I did this in conjunction with Miss Gabrielle Clark, who you guys know from being on the channel. We did a 2-part, 3 hours worth of training for parents who have kids that have been socially transitioned in schools. And Gabs laid out a parenting program that she used on her own daughter to help bring her back from the indoctrination that the schools inflicted upon her. I knew Gabs' story already, but I have to tell you, watching this whole thing play out, watching the 3 hours of training that she did, it really gave me a whole new appreciation for not only what she's had to deal with, but what so many parents have had to deal with in terms of having social emotional learning and radical gender ideology inflicted on their kids in the schools, and what they need to do to overcome that, and the absolute and severe damage that it does. Gabs put on an incredibly moving workshop, incredibly informative. It was so good. And I invite everyone to check it out. It is on activelyunwoke.com under the events section, and you can access it on demand. There is a $20 fee. And that's to make sure that, well, first of all, like, Gabs and I both made money on this. I'm just going to be upfront about it. Gabs and I split the profits of this 50-50. I provided the platform and a lot of the marketing. Gab, of course, provided the content. We are going to be charging for things moving forward. And that's a reflection of the fact that I don't want to deal with bullshit trolls anymore. And that's just the way it is. And if people have a problem with that, then they don't have to pay for it, of course. But, you know, the $20 fee got split between the two of us. We thought it was an eminently fair fee for 3 hours of training. And, you know, that this is the way that we're going to be able to finance being able to spend so much time doing this. So I definitely recommend people check it out. If you want a preview of what it is, there is a video on this page on the website where you can watch a preview. You can get information about the different things she's going to cover. And once you get the on-demand recording, you will have access to that. So you can watch it whenever you like. You can watch it back on demand, things like that. So that's one of the things I've been working on. Gabs and I are also working to put together a back to school webinar series, and there's going to be other people involved in it as well that are going to be doing trainings for parents about how to basically catch their public schools in the act, and what to look for, what words to look for, how to FOIA things, that sort of thing. So we're putting that together right now. More information on that is going to be coming very, very soon. So just keep an eye out. And this is the type of content I'm going to be doing on Actively Unwoke. I have some on-demand recordings I'm working on getting online that I did back in February. I really want Actively Unwoke to be a platform and resource where people can get practical, actionable information that's going to help them in the real world, and have everything available on demand so they can watch it at any time. And that's what I'm working on building out there. Another thing I've spent a lot of time doing is the Actively Unwoke podcast. If you have not yet heard the Actively Unwoke podcast, I host it on my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/activelyunwoke. So all the episodes are posted there in audio only format. The other thing, though, is I do have the podcast on all major podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others too. If you use a different podcasting platform that you do not see here, that doesn't mean it's not on it. I basically loaded it into like every podcasting platform that I can find. So chances are, if you're using a podcasting platform, it's on yours already. But if it's not, just let me know, and I can make sure to get it on there. But if you're just like, hey, I just want to listen in the browser or whatever, I do actually have all of the episodes loaded onto activelyunwoke.com/podcast. So you can go on here, listen to all of them right in your browser. I just released a new one this morning called "They Want to Make Being a Pedophile a Protected Class." It's a feel-good story. It's a feel-good story about what's going on in the world. But it is true. They are trying to make being a pedophile a protected class. So that's a whole other nightmare that we have to look forward to. A lot of the podcasts that I've been doing are actually based on articles that I've been posting on my Substack. I'm really gearing up the my personal Substack, carlin.substack.com, which I'm calling the Actively Unwoke Substack. And this is where I've been writing about a lot of the woke stuff. I just wrote an article about 2 a.m. this morning, I guess, about the exact same thing the podcast is covering. One of the things I'm really making a point of doing is every time I'm writing a Substack article, I'm also going to do a podcast about it for the most part. The reason that is, or if I do a Twitter thread on like the Actively Unwoke Twitter, I'm also going to write a Substack. The reason for that is this. James Lindsay getting banned on Twitter kind of fucked me. Not really. Definitely not in a good way. But it's not like the worst thing in the world. But when James Lindsay got banned on Twitter, I realized how much stuff of his that I had been relying on just those Twitter threads for, that I had like bookmarked those and I would refer back to them a million times. And I never thought to duplicate that anywhere else. And now all that information is gone because James Lindsay got effing banned on Twitter. And so one of the things I'm being mindful of is when I create a piece of content, trying to put that content in multiple different forms in multiple different places. That way, if for some reason Substack goes woke and they're like, we're not going to let you write about the fact that they're trying to make pedophilia a protected class, I'm going to have a podcast about that too. I'm going to have a Twitter thread that I did about that. I'm going to have it in multiple different places. So if it disappears in one place, we're still going to have access to that information in other places. This is really important. We need to create these redundancies, because I think if there's one thing that we should have learned by now, it's that we cannot rely on any platform at all. We have to make the assumption that platforms are eventually going to go woke and they are eventually going to cancel content that they don't like. And so one of the things I've been working on is building infrastructure and systems to be able to create redundancies with the content and also deliver the content in multiple different ways in different places. So that'll takes time, even though the content's created. It does, even though I have like a Substack article written about the pedophile thing, it does take time to record the podcast. It does take time to produce it. So it is extra effort, but I think it's extra effort that's worth it. There are a whole bunch of other articles on this Substack that I've been posting lately, so you can check out those there. I've also been writing on this other Substack called the Red Pill Diaries, and the Red Pill Diaries are a stream of conscious essays that I'm writing about my Red Pill experience. It's a little bit more artsy, a little bit more like, I hope artful. I hope I'm writing artfully, but this is one of the things I've been working on over the past couple of weeks, is getting some more content up on Red Pill Diaries, because I think that stuff like this is important. And one of the cool things about this is if you go into any of my articles, or the newer articles anyway, on the Red Pill Diaries, which is redpilldiaries.substack.com, you can actually hear me narrate the post, because they've launched these new audio features on Substack where I can do a voiceover recording of the post. So you can listen to me read the post, or you can just read it yourself, whatever's clever. But I really appreciate like the response I'm getting to the Red Pill Diaries. If you haven't checked it out yet, I definitely hope you do. That'd be really great. Other things I've been working on. Now let's get into the meat of it. So we've got our events. Events are going to be coming in plentiful. We've got our podcasts that are rocking and rolling, and thank God I don't have to be on camera for these. And the next thing that I want to introduce you guys to is called the Unwoke Army. Now, the Unwoke Army actually launched back in March. And at the time that I launched the Unwoke Army, I did it with my local supporters because my local supporters are the closest people that I have to me. They are the ones that I trust. They're the ones that I talk to quite a bit about the woke stuff and all sorts of other stuff too, because we do these community Zoom calls we do twice a week. And so about 24 of us created the Unwoke Army. And I am like kind of like the de facto public face and leader of the Unwoke Army, but it involves many other people. And one of the projects that you may remember us doing was the Burlington Project, where we uncovered, due to my Friday happy hours on the other channel, we uncovered that the Burlington, Vermont School District was grooming children live on the internet. And about 24 people went through extraordinary means to do research around this, and is still like, I mean, we have just scratched the surface of the amount of research that we actually have on the Burlington Project, on the Burlington schools. But this in and of itself got millions and millions of views. So you might remember seeing it on Laura Ingram. She covered our journalism. You might remember seeing, you got Ben Shapiro down here. Ben Shapiro covered our journalism. Even just the Twitter thread that I wrote about it got over 1 million views. And so this is pretty significant work, and it was all done because a group of average people came together and dedicated their time and dedicated their energy to creating the research that conservative journalists then covered. And so this is the goal of the Unwoke Army. And I'm going to be opening up the Unwoke Army for a new membership for people who want to join starting next week on August 24th. And so this webpage I'm looking at right now, you can access this webpage at, let me get a little banner here to make it easy, at unwokearmy.com. That's going to be the webpage that we're looking at. And actually, let me get this little ticker up too, so you guys can have that there. And basically, what the Unwoke Army is we have one goal. And that is that we are going to turn the public against the public schools simply by exposing what the public schools are doing wide out in the open. Now, one of the things that I learned off of the initial push of the Unwoke Army was that people wanted some direction. People wanted a little bit of structure. What I'm trying to create is a decentralized initiative, but sometimes decentralization, like decentralized initiatives, it can be confusing for people when they first get involved. So people said, Carlin, we'd like a little bit of structure to the Unwoke Army a little bit more. And so what I've decided to do moving forward is we are going to have 4 focused project areas that the Unwoke Army is going to work in. We're going to have the Burlington Project. We are going to take all of that research and all of that evidence that we found on the Burlington school system, and we're going to make that available. And we're going to continue to monitor what is going on in Burlington, Vermont. Not because I think we can fix it, because I don't. Burlington, Vermont is not fixable. I'm sorry for anyone who might listen to this that is watching from Burlington, Vermont. It is not a fixable problem. But what we can do is document what I truly believe is going to be the first American city built entirely on equity. Equity is not only ingrained in the school district in Burlington, Vermont, it is also ingrained in the city government. There's the budget for the city government is built entirely on equity. And this is all based on publicly available knowledge. And so one of the things we are going to be doing is a project where we are going to continue to look at and document what's going on in the Burlington School District. They just had their racial justice summer camp, by the way. It's gotten even more fucked up than even last time we were there. And don't think we're letting you off the hook, Burlington. I never forgot about this. I just had some other stuff going on, but you were never let off the hook. So that's one of the things we're going to be working on, is continuing to expand the work of the Burlington Project. The other thing we're going to work on is called Schools Exposed. And this is going to be crowdsourced journalism based on of looking at different school districts around the country that we think might be doing similar shady shit to that which Burlington did. I'm going to talk more about Schools Exposed in a second. We're going to put a pin in that one, and we're going to come back to it. The next one I want to talk to you about is Groomergate. So here's one of the things that I've learned over the past, couple of months or so. Is grooming going on in the schools? Yes, it absolutely is. Grooming is 100% going on in the schools. However, It is being reinforced in really scary online forums and places. Places on Facebook, and more terrifying than that, places on Discord. And probably other places too. There's probably stuff going on Reddit that I haven't seen yet. So what I'm doing is we are going to put together a group of people, and we're going to become spies. We are going to infiltrate these online spaces. We are going to make them believe that we are teenage girls looking to transition, or thinking about transitioning, or having questions, or confused about their gender identity. And we're going to see what happens. And what I want to see is I want to see what messages these accounts that people think are teenage girls get. And I want to expose that to the world. Because if you think that what is going on in Burlington was as bad as it gets, that is just not true. It is not true at all. These people are evil. What is going on in regards to indoctrinating kids into radical gender ideology and the outcomes of this is evil. It's really bad. And it's worse than people know. And it's worse than people understand. So I'm going to put together a team of people, and we're going to infiltrate them, and we're going to expose them for exactly what they are. The last project that we're going to work on with the Unwoke Army is called SpyStream. Now, you guys might be familiar with SpyStream because I've done many of them on this channel. SpyStream is when we get ourselves inside of a woke training, and then I stream it live on my channel, and we expose exactly what they're teaching when they don't think that anyone is watching. We actually had some success with this in regards to the Burlington. Actually, we've got an endorsement. SpyStream, fun fact for those who don't know, SpyStream was actually endorsed by the progressive media in Vermont. They wrote a whole fucking article about my spy streams. And they basically said in this article, they interviewed woke progressive parents. So basically what happened is when I was doing all this stuff around the Burlington Project, when we were doing it more active and publicly, is I got myself into a webinar put on by the Vermont Human Rights Commission, which is a state agency. And I caught them red-handed violating open meeting law. They called my channel a racist channel. And what we found out later, when the progressive rag in Vermont reported on this and endorsed my spy stream, is we actually scared away parents from attending these open webinars where they're grooming children on the internet. Well, guess what? If I have progressive parents saying that they are afraid of attending webinars where they are grooming children live on the internet, I'm going to call that a win. I'm going to call that an endorsement. And there's a lot more, guys. I was just looking around at some woke webinars we can use for SpyStream earlier today. Holy shit. They haven't slowed down. They haven't slowed down. It's actually getting worse. And so we're going to ramp up SpyStream, and we're going to do more with that. And so these are going to be the 4 core projects of the Unwoke Army. Burlington Project, Schools Exposed, which we're going to talk about more in a second, Groomergate, and SpyStream. Myriad, was that last Friday's webinar? No. So Happy Hour, which is again, Happy Hour is on my second channel, youtube.com/activelyunwoke. It's similar. Happy Hour is similar to SpyStream, except Happy Hour is not live. Happy Hour is like a recording. With SpyStream, we are infiltrating a live training. It is going on in real time. And sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes they discover we're streaming on the internet midway through and they kick us out of the session. Sometimes they actually comment on us in the session. We don't know exactly what's going to happen because SpyStream is completely live. So it's a little bit different. Very similar, but a little different. So these are going to be our 4 core projects. Now, I'm not opposed to having other things going on within the Unwoke Army. I know that people who have already joined the Unwoke Army wanted to be able to work on things outside of these projects. I'm not opposed to that. We're going to talk about that within the Unwoke Army. I'm also not opposed to adding core projects when I think it makes sense, but I think that this is a lot. This is already a lot. And so it's going to give us direction, and I think it's going to be good. So if you would like to get involved in the Unwoke Army, what you need to do is sign up for this webinar that I'm doing next week on August 24th. And if you can't make it at 8 p.m., then sign up for it anyway. And what's going to happen is that you're going to get a link to the recording once it's done, because this will be a recorded webinar. And so if you can't make it live, then get access to the recording and watch it later. What I'm going to talk about on this webinar is how you can join the Unwoke Army. I'm not going to lie. If you're not a member of my locals and I don't know you, you're going to have to do a task. You're going to have to do something to prove that you're trustworthy and to prove that that you really do want to be a member of this community. There are people who are already in it that, like, we have. Once you get into the Unwoke Army, you get access to the Unwoke Army Discord. We have a metric F ton of information in that Unwoke Army Discord. I'm not letting anyone in there willy-nilly. If I don't know you, you need to prove your worthiness, okay? Because the thing of it is the Unwoke Army is an all-volunteer effort. No one's getting paid for this stuff. I don't get paid for this stuff. In fact, I have to invest money in the infrastructure to keep this stuff going. But it is an all volunteer effort. We do not have fancy financial backers, and there's reasons for that. And I think it's better in the long term, because that means we aren't beholden to anyone. We can go where the information takes us. But you're not required to spend any amount of time in the Unwoke Army. You can spend whatever time you want. If there are weeks that you just have other stuff going on and you can't participate, that's fine. That's totally fine. But there are rules to the Unwoke Army. There are absolutely rules. Let me go over a couple of them. Number one, we are unapologetically focused on the goal. The goal is about discrediting and delegitimizing the public schools in this country. We are unapologetically focused on that. If what is going on is not directly contributing to that goal, then it should not be going on. And that leads me to rule number 2. There will be no bullshit or drama or infighting in my Unwoke Army. I am not bringing Twitter into the Unwoke Army. I won't do it. I am only interested in people who are serious about actually doing things that make a difference in the real world. I'm not interested in people who are just want to be famous on Twitter or famous on YouTube. Now, that said, if one of the things that you personally want to do is build a platform, I have no problem with that, and I will absolutely help you do it. I will promote your tweets. I will have you on my YouTube channel. I will promote your channel. I will promote your stuff. You can write about whatever you want in my Substack. It has about 14,000 subscribers. So you will literally have a built-in platform that you can utilize. But you will not bring the type of bullshit and nonsense that I have experienced recently, or over the last year and a half, really, into this space. And if you do, I will kick you out so quickly it will make your head spin, and there will be no second chances. There's also going to be no whining. There's going to be no whining. There's going to be no complaining. There's going to be focused effort on the goal. That's what we're there to do. Rule number 3, you can help out as your time allows. We've already talked about that. And rule number 4, we're going to support each other. I don't care if you personally like someone or not. Your feelings are none of my business. We are going to support each other in this, because fighting back against the woke insanity when you're doing it for real is hard. It's hard. And so we need help, and we need support, and we need an environment where people understand that. So if you would like to learn more and get your chance to get involved in the Unwoke Army, you can head over to unwokearmy.com and sign up for this here webinar I'm doing next week. And even if you don't attend the webinar live, you're going to have to watch the recording anyway. So just sign up, and that way you'll get an email of the recording as soon as the recording is processed, essentially. And you can learn more about that. So that's what's going on with there. Now let me talk about Schools Exposed. Oh, not that. This is what we're looking at. Actually, no, let's talk about this. So one of the things I do want to note is that, listen, guys, I'm really working hard. I think what I hope I've proven at this point is that I'm working hard at building out the Unwoke Empire platform. And there's a lot of stuff I haven't even talked about yet. They're still on the back burner for this. But in order to be able to successfully do this, my ability to build out this Unwoke platform and to have all these different initiatives going on is going to directly depend on how much you guys want to support this. And so the ways you can support my work, there are a couple of them. Head over to activelyunwoke.com/support. You can sign up on Patreon. You can sign up at Patreon anywhere from $5 a month all the way up to $250 a month. And I might add higher levels at some point, but not right now. And I want to talk about that in a second. You can also, of course, join my Locals. Locals has a free option to join, and they also have a paid membership option to join, for which you get extra perks. All of the perks, even though I'm launching a Patreon, all of the perks you get on Locals are going to be available on the Patreon, but nothing about my Locals is changing. Okay. So you can still sign up for Locals as a supporter, $5 a month or $50 a year or more, and get access to like all of our perks, like the community calls. We're starting a movie night. We have a book club, all this sort of stuff that you're going to get in Locals. You're also going to get it as a member on Patreon. So whichever is clever, whichever works best for you. Patreon has some added bonuses. We're going to talk about that in a second. Other ways you can support my work is by becoming a paid supporter on my Substacks, either on the Actively Unwoke Substack or on the Red Pill Diary Substack. Again, same membership price, $5 a month, $50 a year. There's also founding member rates if you want those, but all of that goes to supporting my work. Now, Patreon is cool because, listen, I know some people have problems with Patreon. I get it, but they actually have really good functionality. And the reason I'm expanding to include Patreon and what I'm doing is because I like the functionality of the site. I also want to be able to expand outside of conservative audiences. I feel very strongly that one of the things that we need to do is to be able to wake more people up. And I think that there are people that will not join Locals because they perceive it to be a conservative platform. And so maybe I'm right about that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Time will tell. But if you want to join Locals, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to support on Patreon, you're more than welcome to do that. And it makes no difference to me other than you're going to get more levels on Patreon and more options. Like you can get this cool merch on Patreon. I love this Mad Hatter shirt. This is a shirt you're going to get at the $25 a month level. Mad Hatter giving out the red pill. You can also sponsor my content, get plugs in my content, stuff like that. So that is what some of the ways you can support the work I'm doing. And if more people support it, we're going to be able to expand faster. If people don't support it, we're not going to be able to expand. And that's just the way it goes. Listen, guys, with the donations that you give me, I pay myself with that because all of this takes my time. But I do make pretty heavy investments into the infrastructure to make all of this work. So a lot of the money that I actually pay myself ends up getting invested back into the systems in order to build out the things and the infrastructure we need in order to make all of this work. So for example, this webinar right here, this is hosted on a private webinar platform to protect the identities of the participants that costs over $1,000. Okay? This private webinar platform cost me over $1,000. That's coming out of my pocket. And as much as I would love to be able to snap my finger and make $1,000 appear like that, I just can't do that. I had to work for that money. I had to do consulting for that money and do assessment work for that money and take it out of like other areas because I need more people to be supporting the work I'm doing. And I'm happy to make those investments, guys. I really am. But the what I want to really articulate to you is that I can build this as quickly as people want it built. But I cannot do it unless people want to support it. And the support that you give me is going to get directly invested back into what we're doing. And then you get to make the choice. Do you feel like you value what I'm doing? Am I giving good things out to the world? Am I making good on the donations that you've given me? Or am I not? And if you think I'm doing good, then you can keep donating. If you think I'm not doing good, then you don't have to anymore. And that's just going to be the way it is. And I'm going to do the best I can to build this out, but I need your help in order to be able to do it. Because if I don't have support through here, then I have to go do other stuff. I have to go do organizational consulting. And I don't mind doing that. I love doing that. I'm really good at that. I'm actually building out one of the things that I want to build out for the Unwoke platform is I want to build out a whole Unwoke Your Work section where I have Unwoke workplace training content on demand that people can access anytime. That's one of the things I want to be able to do. And I can do that as long as people are supportive of what I'm doing. All right, let's talk about the Schools Exposed thing because Schools Exposed is what we're going to be working on today. We are going to do a group project together. Alexandra says, what's the best place to support you? I mean, where do you get the highest percentage of what we send? Locals is fine. Patreon is fine. I think I actually get the highest percentage on Locals to be honest. I also get a decently high percentage of like when you sign up for the webinars, but like locals is fine. Like that would probably be the place that I would do it. But I want to make sure I'm giving as many options as I can, and I do appreciate you asking that, Alexandra. All right. So Schools Exposed is going to be a crowdsourced journalism project. And this basically was an epiphany I had the other day about how to do this. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to expose what the schools are doing right out in the open, because they are doing this stuff right out in the open. Critical race theory is absolutely still taught in K through 12 schools. Social emotional learning is still happening in K through 12 schools. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see. And yes, they are grooming your kids. They are. And a lot of times they're doing it. They're putting all of their documentation online. They're putting webinars online. They're putting videos online. They're putting everything online to virtue signal to the parents in their communities. And I want to expose it. So one of the things that you all can do right now, and I'm going to put the link in the chat. One of the things that we're doing is I decided to launch this way for people to be able to send me information about their schools. So essentially, one of the things that's really helpful, there are thousands of schools in the country, right? Thousands of schools. We need to be able to focus. I can't go one by one through every single school in the country. I need to be able to have to focus. And so what I'm asking is that if you have concerns about what is going on in your school district, I need you to go onto that website. I'll go to unwokearmy.com. And actually, if you go to Unwoke Army, let me show you. If you go to unwokearmy.com, there is, here it is, this banner, help us collect data to expose the schools. Click on this button right here. That's going to bring you to not that page, this page. And what I'm looking for is the city and state of your school, the URL of your school's website. If your school has a diversity and equity office, the URL of that website. If your school or your school's diversity and equity office has a YouTube page, I want that information. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. Any other information that you feel would be helpful. And then if you want to, you don't have to do this though. If you want to give me your email address so I can keep in touch with you, that's totally fine. If you want to be completely anonymous, that's totally fine too. It's entirely up to you. But basically, when you go to the site, you're going to click this button here, and you're going to fill out this survey. And it's going to say, what state are you located in? What city are you located in? What is your school's website? What is the specific URL for the diversity and equity office if they have a separate site? Many of them do, especially if you're in a large area. Does your school have a YouTube channel or other platform where they post videos? Does your school's diversity and equity office have a YouTube channel or another platform where they post videos? If your school's diversity and equity office has a separate YouTube channel, it's really important for us to know that, because oftentimes that's where you're going to find the most cringy content. Okay. So it is important that we know that if there's a separate channel. Are there any other URLs related to the school or any other information in general? And then you can share your email address, and that's it. That is the survey. Now, when people submit this information, what happens is it goes into this here spreadsheet. And I'm not giving away any private information in this. None of this is private. None of this is personal information. We basically have city and state and URLs. And so you can see, since I launched this a day and a half ago, we already have 80 people who have submitted information about their schools. And one of those schools we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the Ogden-Boxborough School District. This is a school that is about 20 minutes north of Boston. This school is about half an hour away from where I live. And this is a school that got submitted off of the Schools Exposed form. So when you submit your school, and I want to encourage everyone, even if you don't have kids, just submit the information for the school in the town that you live in. If you don't have kids, if your kids aren't in school, submit your town's school information, okay? Because that's going to at least help us to be able to focus. And it really does help. It might seem like just a couple URLs, but you got to understand that when we have to hunt down all this information, it just takes a lot of time. And so if we have it all in one place, that's really going to help us out. So